We are not nearly done fighting. We're not going to stop until he walks out of prison a free man to his family.
The fight isn't over for Sean Diddy Combs. A month after being convicted by a jury, his defense team is asking to vacate the verdict or put him back on trial.
Diddy could walk free any day now, and nobody saw this coming. After a guilty verdict that sent shock waves through the music industry, the legal system, and social media, a sudden legal loophole has emerged, a single crack in the foundation.
Diddy is now not only fighting to get out, he wants the whole thing overturned. And his main argument is, I didn't have sex with them, I just directed amateur porn.
He didn't just sit there, though.
He self-pleasured during these acts. You may not hire someone to perform sex acts in front of you for your own personal pleasure.
Right.
That is still an act of prostitution.
The mogul last faced a court during his 32-day federal trial in New York, which wrapped in late June. Prosecutors accusing him of illegally orchestrating drug-fueled group sex marathons he called freak-offs.
I'm the world's most interesting man, and I throw the best parties.
Same time, it was a scary situation because you have, 12 people who hold the fate of your life.
Diddy maintained his innocence and, in the end, was found not guilty of the more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, dodging the possibility of a life sentence. He was, however, convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, the max 20 years.
Diddy is going to get some time. I'm expecting something on the lower end of maybe 3 to 4 years.
But in a new 62-page motion filed Wednesday, Diddy's legal team is throwing a Hail Mary. They're arguing the convictions should not stand, one, because they go against precedent. They say, quote, Combs is the only person ever convicted under the statute where he neither had sex with the alleged prostitutes, nor profited, nor acted with the intent to commit any sexual assault or trafficking. And 2, because the mounds of scandalous evidence presented in court to prove the now rejected charges poisoned the jury.
Whole criminal trial, 7 weeks of testimony and a verdict that ended in Sean Diddy Combs' conviction on 2 federal sex crimes charges. Could he be pardoned by the President of the United States? That is a question that came up a lot when we were doing the live streams of the Diddy trial every day on YouTube. I never really considered it as a real possibility, but I'll tell you what, now, based on current reporting, we may have to take this seriously. Oh, and in terms of relief for Diddy, we also have to get into his defense team's new memo that they filed arguing that his conviction should be thrown out, or at the very least, he should get a new trial. We're going to talk about that too. And by the way, let me tell you, we have an amazing guest who I'm going to be bringing on in a little bit, somebody who actually helped secure federal pardons for his clients, including from President Trump, and is an expert in criminal law, has been following this case from the very beginning. I'm going to bring him on in a little bit. But why do I say that we have to take pardons seriously now? Why? Well, TMZ has reported that President Donald Trump's administration has been talking to Diddy's legal team about a potential pardon, a forgiveness for a federal crime. It's enshrined in the Constitution. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1, the president shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. And according to TMZ, his decision to pardon Diddy may be determined based on if Judge Arun Subramanian grants Diddy bail, which, by the way, we dedicated a whole sidebar to the other day. His team just filed a brand new letter with the court asking for him to be released. I broke it down, discussed all those arguments.
Buried so deep in the process that no one even noticed until now. That tiny crack might just be enough to bring the entire case crashing down. Let's rewind. Just days ago, the courtroom was electric. The verdict came in, guilty. The headlines were already written. Justice served, they said. The fall of a giant. The public watched it happen in real time. People cried. People cheered. The courtroom emptied. The chapter was closed. But it wasn't, because while the world was processing the fallout, Diddy's legal team was already at work. They weren't reacting, they were waiting. Waiting for this exact moment. And now they've made their move. A legal loophole has surfaced, a devastating procedural flaw. And it's not just some paperwork error. This is a constitutional issue, a violation of due process. According to insiders, it revolves around jury selection.
Trump pardons him, he's free to go. President Trump was asked about this a few months ago before the verdict. This was back in May. And he said when asked about a pardon for Diddy, I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up from what I read. I don't know, he didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. And Diddy had been photographed with Trump over the years. There was some sort of relationship there. President Trump even called him a good friend on a 2012 episode of his TV show The Apprentice. The problem is, some comments Diddy made about Trump in recent years as Diddy really entered the political realm. There's a video where he's speaking to radio host Charlemagne saying, if Trump gets elected, I really do believe in my heart there'll be a race war. In another video on Revolt, he says white men like Trump need to be banished. And by the way, you know who's not letting anyone forget this? Combs' rival 50 Cent. Took to social media recently, wrote, see, Trump don't like S like this, buddy. You run your mouth too much. And Donald doesn't take well to disrespect and doesn't forget who chooses to go against him. While working tirelessly to make America great again, there is no room for distraction. He would consider pardoning anyone who is being mistreated, not Puff Daddy. And let me tell you, the idea of Trump pardoning Diddy is not getting a ton of love out there. Conservative commentator Megyn Kelly posted on X, Trump should not pardon Diddy. He doesn't deserve it. He's a Trump hater. He's a woman abuser. MAGA is already upset over elites seeming to cover for each other. This would not help. GOP struggling with young female voters, most of whom will hate a Diddy pardon. And then you just had other random accounts like America First. What? He's actually considering this? Diddy is a depraved, abusive, sexual deviant who should be spending the rest of his life in prison. If Trump pardons him, he will get absolutely crushed. Who is advising him lately? It's looking like straight up sabotage at this point. There were other accounts that were not in favor of it, although there was this account. Milo posted on X, Trump has no choice but to pardon Diddy after the government, led by James Comey's daughter Maureen, simply lost interest in Diddy's guilt the moment they secured his tapes incriminating powerful Democrats. The prosecution was a shambles. The trial was a farce. Now, I want to talk about if this is really going to happen, how it would happen. Also, if it really depends on bail and sentencing, then what are we talking about? And I have somebody who not only has been following the Diddy case from the very beginning, not only is a renowned criminal defense attorney, but actually has obtained federal pardons from the president, including from Donald Trump. By the way, for his clients Kodak Black and Lil Wayne, those were maybe the most notable. I'm joined by Bradford Cohen. Bradford, thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jess.
Now, before I even get into the pardon, okay, there was a bit of breaking news before we were going to come on. This is what I want to get your opinion on first. So Combs' defense team filed a memo in support of a motion for judgment of acquittal, or in the alternative, a motion for a new trial. And basically, I know you read through it, but basically the evidence, they would say, is insufficient to sustain that conviction. Their main arguments is really echoing what we've talked about a little bit when it came to the bail analysis, but that his prosecution, his conviction on these Mann Act prostitution charges is so unique. He wasn't profiting off of this business. All consenting adults were involved. The jury didn't find that there was any sex trafficking. They argued this isn't even prostitution per se, it's voyeurism, that the intent wasn't for people to travel for sex for money, but he paid them for their time. Everybody was having a good time. He makes a First Amendment argument that the freak-offs and the hotel nights were performances that were typically
a sacred part of any trial, specifically a juror who failed to disclose a prior connection to a key witness, a connection that, if known, could have changed everything. That disclosure wasn't optional, it was required by law. And because it didn't happen, the entire verdict may be legally invalid. Diddy's lawyers didn't hesitate. They filed an emergency motion, a full request to vacate the verdict entirely. Not reduce, not appeal, vacate, as in erase it from the record. If granted, the guilty verdict is gone. Diddy walks out, clean slate. And make no mistake, this isn't desperation. This is precision. This is years of experience on display. The motion is airtight, over 200 pages of legal firepower. It doesn't just argue, it dismantles, piece by piece. It breaks down how the jurors' presence tainted the trial from the inside out. And the timing? Impeccable. Asterisk.
Legal saga of Sean Diddy Combs entering a new chapter after his guilty verdicts. In court docs obtained by E! News, the Bad Boy Records founder filed a new motion July 30th requesting to either overturn his convictions or grant the 55-year-old a brand new trial. Less than a month after Combs was convicted for transportation to engage in prostitution, his attorneys calling the verdict unprecedented, alleging Combs never actually committed illegal acts as the law describes, saying in their motion Combs at most, paid to engage in voyeurism as part of a swinger's lifestyle. That does not constitute prostitution under a properly limited definition of the statutory term. The media mogul's legal team demanding an acquittal, and if not, they'll request a fresh start in court without evidence tied to his not guilty verdicts surrounding charges for racketeering and sex trafficking. This comes after the trial judge denied Diddy's request to be released on bail, leaving him behind bars in his New York City detention center, where the rapper awaits his sentencing hearing scheduled for October 3rd.
So they could watch them later on. It's just amateur pornography. And then finally makes the argument that he was prejudiced because of all the other evidence that came in to prove RICO or sex trafficking, and would have never came in if he was merely being prosecuted for prostitution, particularly the Intercontinental Hotel footage of him purporting to beat up Cassie Ventura Fine. And he says, at the very least, he needs a new trial. I hand it over to you. You think this is a successful argument?
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if it's going to be successful in the judgment of acquittal. I think the argument is interesting because everyone agrees he might be the only person in custody right now that has ever been convicted of the Mann Act. The Mann Act, and it gives a nice history of the Mann Act, and a lot of people don't understand what the Mann Act is, but the Mann Act was enacted because of a racist motivation that white women were being recruited by people of color to go across state lines and make money. So actually pimping those women across state lines and making money off of their sexual exploits. Obviously, that's not the case here. It's used so infrequently, it might have been a handful of people were actually charged with the Mann Act. No one in custody currently has ever been convicted of the Mann Act. So it's an interesting argument to say, hey, listen, this Mann Act, the original reason for it was racist. The original way that it was applied was racist. The way it's applied here is incorrect because he was not making any money from quote unquote pimping or getting these women across, or men getting them across state lines. None of that was being done. This was all being done for entertainment purposes. So it's an interesting argument. I don't think this judge buys it. It might be interesting on an appeal, but I don't think the judge is going to give him a judgment of acquittal on those two counts based on the argument. Now, the more interesting argument to me, and it's their last argument for new trial, is that, listen, if you were just going to charge him with these two counts, which I originally said when I looked at all the evidence, and don't forget, I was getting calls during this trial from individuals that were telling me, hey, I have information.
Most defendants wait months to even begin their appeals. Diddy's team filed this motion within days. They were ready, and the system wasn't. Right now, the judge has that motion in hand. Sources say it's being reviewed aggressively because this isn't just a footnote. This is a ticking time bomb. If the motion is denied, Diddy proceeds to sentencing. But if it's granted, everything resets. He walks free immediately. Legal analysts are scrambling. Some are stunned that such a loophole slipped through the cracks. Others are calling it legal genius. But everyone agrees on one thing. This changes everything. The courtroom may have gone quiet, but the tension hasn't left. It's just moved behind closed doors, in chambers, in phone calls, in quiet conferences between lawyers and judges. Everyone knows what's at stake. And outside the courthouse, chaos. Reporters camped out. Protesters on both sides. Fans hoping for redemption. Critics demanding accountability. The entire country is watching.